You've spent your whole life becoming someone, a name, a personality, a story you keep repeating, and it feels real. It feels like, this is me. But just pause for a moment. If your thoughts can change, if your emotions come and go, if even your personality has shifted over time, then who is the one that never changes? Who is still there watching all of this happen? Because something about this doesn't add up. You've been calling all of this me, but everything you point to keeps shifting. And deep down, you felt this before. That quiet moment when you look at yourself and something feels slightly off, like you're living inside a version of you that was slowly built, not discovered. So tonight, you're not going to learn something new. You're going to see what was never you in the first place. The name you answered to was never you from the very beginning. Before you could speak, before you could even think, you were given a name, a simple word, chosen by someone else. And slowly, people started using it again and again, calling you, teaching you, reminding you, until one day, without even realizing it, you started responding. At first, it was just a sound, but over time, it became something more. It became personal. It became you. Now, when someone calls that name, you turn, you react. You feel something inside, as if they are calling your very being. But just pause for a moment. Look at it quietly. That name existed before you understood it, before you had any idea who you were. And even now, if someone else had been given that same name, they would respond to it just like you do. So how can something that can belong to anyone be who you truly are? That name is not your thoughts. It's not your feelings. It's not your awareness. It is just a label placed on you so the world could recognize you. A convenient way for others to reach you. But somewhere along the way, you stopped seeing it as a label and started believing it was your identity. You started building everything around it. Your story, your past, your image, all connected to this one word. But the truth is quieter than that. That name doesn't feel your pain. It doesn't think your thoughts. It doesn't watch your life. It just exists on the surface, and you are something deeper. You are the one who hears the name, the one who notices the reaction, the one who is aware even before the name is spoken. And if one day that name disappeared, if no one ever called you by it again, would you disappear too? Or would you still be here, watching, feeling, existing, just as you are? Sit with that, because the moment you see this clearly, something inside you loosens. A small distance appears between you and the identity you've been holding onto. And in that small distance, for the first time, you begin to sense that you are not the name. You are the presence behind it. The person you became was quietly programmed. The person you believe you are today didn't appear all at once. It was built slowly, quietly, over time, in ways you never stopped to notice. From your earliest days, you were watching everything. How people speak, how they react, what is accepted, what is rejected, and without effort, without awareness, you started copying, not because you chose to, but because that's how the mind learns. You learned when to stay quiet. You learned when to smile. You learned what makes you I good and what makes you wrong. And each time something was repeated, it settled a little deeper inside you, like a pattern being written again and again and again, until one day, it no longer felt like something you learned. It felt like something you are. But look closely. The way you react to situations, the things that trigger you, the fears you carry, even the way you see yourself, all of it has roots somewhere. A moment, a voice, an experience, something that shaped you without asking your permission. And over time, all of these pieces came together, forming a personality, a version of you that feels natural, but was actually constructed piece by piece. You weren't born thinking, I am this kind of person. You became it through repetition, through conditioning, through silent influence, and because it happened so gradually. You never questioned it, you accepted it as truth. But what if it isn't? What if the person you defend, the one you try to improve, the one you feel stuck inside, is just a collection of patterns running on their own? A version of you, shaped by the outside world, not discovered from within? Just pause. If your behavior can change, if your beliefs can change, if your personality has already changed many times in your life, then how can it be your true self? How can something so flexible be something so permanent? There is something deeper in you that watched all these changes happen. The child you once were changed. The teenager changed. The person you are now is still changing. But something inside you has been there through all of it, watching, noticing, remaining. That part of you was never programmed. It was always there, quiet, untouched, waiting. And the moment you begin to see this, not as an idea, but as a feeling, something shifts inside. You stop holding so tightly to the identity you built, and you begin to sense that who you are is not what was programmed into you, but what remains. When all that programming is seen, clearly and gently released. That voice in your head isn't who you are. There is a voice inside you, always there, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. It speaks without pause, commenting on everything, judging everything, replaying things that already happened, imagining things that haven't. Sometimes it sounds calm, sometimes it sounds anxious, sometimes it lifts you up, sometimes it pulls you down. And for so long, you've been listening to it as if it is you. You say, I am thinking this. I feel like this. I know this is true. But just slow down for a moment and notice something very simple. You can hear that voice. You can observe it, almost like you're standing slightly behind it, which means it is something appearing inside your awareness, not something you are. Because if it were truly you, there would be no distance, no noticing, no observing. It would just be, but here you are, listening to it, watching it move, sometimes even disagreeing with it. Have you ever noticed that? That moment when a thought comes and something inside you quietly says, this doesn't feel right. If that voice was truly you, who is the one questioning it? Who is the one noticing the contradiction? That voice is not a single thing. It is a collection of everything you've heard, learned, experienced, fragments of the past stitched together, repeating, reacting, predicting, trying to protect you, trying to control your world. But it does it automatically, without asking, without pausing. It keeps speaking. Even when you don't need it, even when it creates fear, confusion, overthinking. And because it never stops, it starts to feel like your identity, like something solid. But look closely. The voice changes. Some days it's loud, some days it's quiet. Some moments it's kind, other moments it's harsh. It contradicts itself, it repeats itself, it drifts without direction. How can something so unstable be who you truly are? You are not the noise, you are the one who hears it, the one who can step back, even for a second, and watch it without getting pulled in. And in that small space, something powerful happens. The voice loses its authority. Not because you forced it to stop, but because you stopped believing every word it says. You begin to see it as just a process, a movement of thoughts, coming, going, changing, and behind all of that, there is something still, something silent, something that doesn't speak but knows. That presence, that awareness has been with you the entire time. Even when the voice was loud, even when it felt overwhelming, it was always there, unaffected, untouched. And once you begin to recognize this, even gently, even for a moment, you realize something that changes everything. You don't have to fight your thoughts. You don't have to silence the voice. You don't have to control it. You only need to see that it was never you. Your emotions move, but something in you never does. Your emotions feel powerful, sometimes so powerful. It feels like they take over your entire being. One moment, you feel calm, light, at ease, and then suddenly, something shifts, a memory, a word, a small moment, and everything inside you changes. Your chest feels heavy, your thoughts speed up, your energy drops. It feels real, intense, almost permanent. But just stay here for a second and look closely. That feeling wasn't there a moment ago, and at some point, it will fade again. Every emotion you've ever felt, happiness, sadness, anger, fear, they all came and they all left. Some stayed longer, some passed quickly, but none of them stayed forever. And yet, you're still here, watching all of them come and go. Think about that. If you were your emotions, then every time they changed, you would completely disappear and become someone else. But that doesn't happen. Something in you remains, even when everything inside feels like it's moving. There's a quiet part of you that notices the feeling, that says, I feel sad, or I feel anxious. That small noticing is everything, because it shows there is a space between you and the emotion. The emotion is being experienced, but you are the one experiencing it. And that means it is not you. It is something passing through you, like a wave rising, reaching its peak, and then falling back, but the ocean beneath it remains unshaken, deep, still. You are not the wave, you are the depth beneath it. And the more you begin to see this, the more something inside you softens. You stop fighting every emotion. You stop trying to control every feeling. Because you realize you don't have to. You don't have to chase happiness. You don't have to run from sadness. You don't have to fix every uncomfortable feeling. You can simply let it move, let it rise, let it fall, while you stay as the one who notices, and something very subtle begins to happen. The emotions lose their power to define you. They still come, they still feel real, but they don't control you in the same way anymore. Because now, there's a small distance, a quiet awareness that remains untouched, even in the middle of the storm. And in that awareness, there is a different kind of peace. Not the kind that depends on always feeling us good, but the kind that comes from knowing that no matter what you feel, there is something in you that never moves, never breaks, never disappears, just quietly, always remains. The story you believe is repeating itself inside your mind. There is a story, not loud, not always obvious, but always there, quietly running in the background. A story about who you are, what kind of person you've become, what has happened to you, and what will happen next. And without noticing, you return to this story again and again, almost like a familiar place. You tell yourself, this is just how I am. This always happens to me. I've never been able to change. And each time you repeat these lines, they sink a little deeper until they stop sounding like thoughts and start feeling like truth. But just pause and look at it gently. This story, where did it come from? It didn't appear all at once. It was built from moments you remember, from things people said to you, from experiences that left a mark. You took those pieces and slowly you connected them until they formed a narrative, a version of events that made sense to you. But here is something subtle. Every memory you hold is not exactly what happened. It is what your mind interpreted, what your mind decided it meant, and then stored in a certain way. So the story you keep repeating is not reality. It is your interpretation of reality, played over and over again, until it feels fixed. But if you look closely, you'll notice something strange. You don't just remember the past, you relive it again and again, through the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same conclusions. And each time you revisit it, you or just strengthen it. You make it more real. You give it more control until it starts shaping your present. Without you realizing it, you begin to act according to the story. You expect the same outcomes. You react in the same ways. You limit yourself based on what you believe is already true. And slowly, the story becomes a loop, not because life never changes, but because your mind keeps returning to the same interpretation, the same identity, the same version of you. But just stay here for a moment. If the story can repeat, if it can be remembered, replayed, reshaped, then it is something you are aware of, not something you are, because you are the one who is noticing the story, the one who can step back even slightly and see it as a pattern, not as absolute truth. And in that small moment of seeing, something begins to loosen. The story loses a little of its grip, not because it disappears, but because you are no longer fully inside it. You are watching it, and when you watch it, without immediately believing it, without reacting to every line it tells you, a space begins to form. And in that space, you start to realize you are not bound to the story. You are not limited by what has been repeated. You are not defined by what you remember. You are the awareness in which the story appears and disappears again and again, and maybe for the first time. You don't feel the need to keep repeating it. You don't feel the need to hold on to it. You simply notice that it has been running for a long time without ever being questioned, and now something inside you is beginning to see that you were never the story. You were the one who kept listening to it. You've been living as a character, not yourself. If you look closely at your life, you'll start to notice something subtle but powerful. You don't just live, you perform. Not in a dramatic way, not in a way anyone can easily see, but in small, quiet ways. Every single day, there is a version of you that knows how to respond in certain situations, how to speak in front of certain people, how to hide parts of yourself and show others. And over time, that version became consistent, predictable, familiar, until it started to feel like your real self. But just pause. Where did this version come from? You weren't born with it. It formed. Through experiences, through expectations, through the need to fit in, to be accepted, to be understood. You learned what gets approval. You learned what gets rejected. You adjusted again and again until you became someone who knows how to play the role. You act confident when you feel unsure. You act calm when something inside is restless. You say things you don't fully mean, just to keep things smooth. And slowly, you step further away from what is natural and closer to what is expected. But because this has been happening for so long, it no longer feels like acting. It feels like you. Like this is just who you are. But look carefully. This you changes in different places with different people. You are not exactly the same person with your family as you are with strangers or with friends, or when you are completely alone. The tone changes, the behavior shifts, the energy feels different. So which one is the real you? Or are they all just versions of a character you learned to play? And if all of them can change, then none of them can be your true self. Because what is real doesn't need to adjust itself to be valid. What is real simply is. There is something deeper in you that exists before the role, before the reactions, before the adjustments, something that doesn't need to perform or prove or protect, but it has been covered by the character you've been living as, a character built for survival, for belonging, for acceptance, not for truth. And the more you stay identified with that character, the more exhausting it becomes. Because deep down, you are constantly maintaining something, holding it together, making sure it doesn't break. And that quiet exhaustion you feel sometimes, it's not from life itself. It's from carrying a version of yourself that isn't fully real. Just sit with that, because the moment you begin to see the character, not as who you are, but as something you've been playing. A small distance appears. You don't have to destroy it. You don't have to reject it. You simply recognize it as a role, as a pattern, as something learned. And in that recognition, something softens. You stop holding on to it so tightly. You stop believing it completely. And for a moment, you feel something different. Not a new identity, but the absence of one. A quiet space where you're no longer trying to be someone. You're simply here, without effort, without performance. And in that space, you begin to sense that who you truly are was never the character. It was the one who was always behind it, watching silently, patiently, waiting to be noticed. The illusion feels real because you never stopped to see it. The strange thing about illusion is not that it is powerful. It is that it goes unnoticed. You don't see it. Not because it is hidden well, but because you never pause long enough to look. Your life keeps moving. Thoughts keep coming. Reactions keep happening. Moments keep passing. And in the middle of all this movement, everything blends together. So smoothly, so continuously, that it starts to feel like one solid reality, something stable, something unquestionable. But if you slow down, even slightly, if you step back for just a moment, you begin to notice small cracks, small gaps that were always there but never seen. The way a thought appears suddenly without asking you. The way a feeling rises and changes your entire state. The way your mind jumps from one idea to another without you choosing any of it. And yet, all of this is happening inside something that is still, something that is quietly aware of the movement. But because you never stopped, you never noticed the difference, you were always inside the experience, never outside it, never observing it, just moving with it, reacting to it, becoming it. And this is how the illusion stays alive. Not through force, but through speed. Because when everything moves fast, there's no space to question, no space to see clearly. Everything feels real simply because it is happening continuously. Like a movie. When the scenes change quickly, you don't notice the individual frames, you just see a story. And you get pulled into it, emotionally, completely. But if the film slows down, if each frame is seen separately, the illusion begins to weaken. You start to realize it was never as solid as it seemed. Your mind works in the same way. It creates a continuous flow of thoughts, feelings, identities, and because there is no pause, it feels like one real thing. But the moment you stop, even for a few seconds, and simply watch, without trying to change anything, without trying to control anything, something subtle happens. The flow breaks, the automatic movement slows, and for the first time, you begin to see that what felt so real is actually a series of small passing moments, coming, going, changing, not something fixed, not something permanent. And in that seeing, the illusion loses its strength. Not because you fought it, but because you finally saw it clearly, without being lost inside it. And once you truly see something, even for a brief moment, it can never fully go back to being invisible again. Now, there is a small awareness, a quiet distance between you and everything that is happening. And in that distance, there is a new kind of clarity, not loud, not overwhelming, but calm, steady, real. You begin to realize that the illusion was never holding you. You were just never stepping back enough to see that it wasn't real. The truth the Vedas reveal changes everything for a long time. You've been trying to understand yourself, trying to fix what feels broken, trying to improve what feels incomplete, searching for answers in thoughts, in ideas, in explanations. But the truth the Vedas point to doesn't ask you to become something new. It doesn't tell you to build a better version of yourself. It does something much deeper and much quieter. It asks you to stop, not to give up, but to pause long enough to see that everything you've been trying to fix was never your true self to begin with, because what you call yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, your identity, your story, all of it is changing all the time, and anything that is constantly changing cannot be what you truly are. Because what is real doesn't come and go, it doesn't appear and disappear, it remains. And this is where something begins to shift, not as an idea, but as a quiet realization. There's something in you that has always been here, before every thought, before every emotion, before every version of yourself you've ever been. Something that has never changed. Even as everything else did, the child you once were changed. The person you are now is still changing. Your beliefs, your feelings, your identity, all of it keeps moving. But there is something in you that has been present through all of it, watching, noticing, remaining. That presence, that silent awareness is what the Vedic wisdom points to, not as something you need to reach, but as something you already are. It doesn't need to be created. It doesn't need to be improved. It doesn't need to be protected, because it was never damaged. It was only covered by layers of thoughts, of labels, of identities, layer after layer, until you forgot what was underneath and started believing the layers were you. But now, as you begin to see this, even slightly, something inside you relaxes. You stop chasing. You stop trying so hard to understand everything, because you realize the truth is not something you have to think about. It is something you notice. When the thinking becomes quiet, when the noise slows down, when you are no longer trying to hold on to every idea about yourself. And in that quiet space, there is a simple but powerful recognition that you are not inside your thoughts. Your thoughts are appearing inside you. You are not inside your emotions. Your emotions are moving within you. You are not inside your story. Your story is something that comes and goes, but you remain unchanged, untouched, always present. And once this begins to be felt, not just understood, everything starts to shift, not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle, steady way. You stop taking every thought seriously. You stop reacting to every emotion as if it defines you. You stop holding on to an identity that keeps changing. And instead, you begin to rest in something deeper, something quieter, something that doesn't need to prove itself. And this is why this truth changes everything, because it doesn't add anything to you. It removes what was never real, until what remains is what you have always been, before the name, before the story, before the illusion, just here, aware, present, still. You don't need to find yourself, only remove what isn't you for so long. You've been searching, trying to understand who you are, trying to fix what feels wrong, trying to become someone better, calmer, stronger, more complete. It feels like a journey forward, like there is something ahead of you, waiting to be found. But just pause. What if the direction has always been wrong? What if you were never meant to go forward, to become something new, but to gently step back and see what is already here? Because everything you've been trying to become is still just another layer, another identity, another idea, another version of yourself. And every time you add something new, you move further away from what is already real. The truth is quieter than that. You don't need to find yourself, because what is real was never lost. You only need to see what you are not and slowly allow it to fall away. Not by force, not by struggle, but by clear seeing. Just notice. Every belief you hold about yourself, I am this kind of person. I always feel this way. I can never change. These are not facts. They are thoughts. And thoughts can change. Every role you play, every identity you carry, the strong one, the quiet one, the broken one, the confident one, all of these are forms. They appear. They shift. They disappear. But you remain. Every memory you hold, every story you repeat, every label you've accepted, all of it is something added, something learned, something collected. And anything that can be added can also be removed. Not by pushing it away, but by seeing it clearly. When you see a thought as just a thought, it loses its weight. When you see a belief as something learned, it loses its control. When you see an identity as a role, it loses its grip, and slowly, without effort, layers begin to fall, one by one, not because you're trying to remove them, but because you no longer believe they are you. And in that process, something very subtle happens. You don't feel like you're becoming more. You feel like you're becoming lighter, less burdened, less defined, less confined, as if something unnecessary is being released. And in that space, you begin to notice there is something still here, something that was never part of the layers, something that doesn't need to be improved or changed or fixed. It simply is quiet, steady, present. And the more you rest in that, the more natural it feels. Not like something new, but like something familiar, something you've always been, but never fully noticed. This is why the path is not about becoming, it is about uncovering, not about adding, but about letting go. Not about searching outside, but about seeing within. And as this becomes clearer, you stop chasing a version of yourself. You stop trying to reach some final state. You simply remain as what is left, when everything that isn't you is no longer held onto. The moment you observe, the control begins to break. All this time, it felt like something was controlling you. Your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions, they seemed to come on their own, pulling you into them. Before you even realized what was happening, a thought appears, and suddenly you're inside it. A feeling rises, and suddenly it becomes your whole reality. And it feels automatic, like you don't have a choice, like this is just how you are. But just slow down, because there is something very small and very powerful that changes everything. Observation. Not thinking about your thoughts, not trying to fix them, not trying to push them away. Just observing, watching, noticing, without getting involved. The moment you do that, even for a few seconds, something begins to shift. The pattern doesn't feel as strong. The pull weakens just slightly, because now you are not fully inside the experience. You're seeing it. And that small distance is enough to break the automatic loop. Think about it. When a thought comes, it usually takes over immediately. It pulls you into a chain. One thought leads to another and another until you're completely lost inside it. But when you observe, the chain doesn't continue in the same way. You see the first thought, and instead of following it, you stay with it, you watch it. And because of that, it begins to lose its momentum. It fades, just like any passing thing. The same with emotions. When a feeling rises, it usually feels like it is you. It fills your body, your mind, your attention. But the moment you observe it, without naming it, without resisting it, just feeling it as it is, something changes. You realize it is moving, it is not fixed, it is not permanent, and suddenly you're not trapped inside it anymore. You are witnessing it, and in that witnessing, the control begins to break. Not completely, not all at once, but enough for you to see that it was never absolute. It only felt that way because you were always inside it, never outside it, never watching. And the more you practice this simple act of just observing, without reacting immediately, without believing everything that appears, the more space begins to grow. Space between you and your thoughts. Space between you and your emotions. Space between you and the identity you've been carrying. And in that space, there is freedom, not forced, not dramatic, but quiet, natural, steady. Because control only exists when you are unaware, when everything happens automatically without being seen. But the moment you see, clearly, gently, without judgment, the illusion of control starts to fall apart. You don't need to fight your mind. You don't need to silence your thoughts. You don't need to escape your emotions. You only need to observe. And in that observation, you begin to realize something deeply calming, that you were never truly controlled. You were just unaware. And now, something in you has started to wake up. Not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly. Through seeing, through noticing, through simply being aware. And from that awareness, everything begins to change. The pain you feel is not who you are. There are moments when the pain feels so real, so heavy, so personal, that it doesn't just feel like something you are experiencing. It feels like something like it has become part of your identity. Not just a passing feeling, but something that defines you. You don't just say, I feel hurt. You begin to feel, I am broken. You don't just say, I feel anxious. You begin to feel, this is who I am now. And slowly, without realizing it, the pain starts attaching itself to your sense of self. It wraps around your thoughts, your memories, your expectations, until it feels inseparable. But just pause here. Slow everything down and look closely, very gently. This pain you are feeling right now, was it always there? Think back. There were moments in your life where this exact feeling didn't exist. Moments where you were lighter, calmer, more at ease. And even if those moments feel distant now, they were real. Which means this pain came at a certain point. And if something comes, it can also go. Even if it takes time, even if it lingers, even if it returns again and again, it is still something that moves, something that changes, something that is not fixed. And anything that is not fixed cannot be who you truly are. Because what you truly are doesn't come and go, it doesn't appear and disappear, it remains. Now look even deeper. When the pain is at its strongest, when it feels overwhelming, consuming, inescapable, there is still something inside you that is aware of it, something that knows this or she hurts, something that is noticing the heaviness, the tightness, the weight. That awareness is not in pain, it is aware of pain. And that difference, even if it feels small, changes everything, because it shows that the pain is happening within you, but it is not what you are. It is something moving through you, like a storm passing through the sky. The storm can be loud, intense, even frightening, but the sky behind it remains untouched. The sky doesn't become the storm, it simply holds it until it passes. You are not the storm, you are the space in which it appears and disappears. But the mind does something subtle. It takes the pain and turns it into a story. It says, "This is happening because of who I am. This is my life now. This is something I will always carry." And each time that story is repeated, the pain feels more permanent, more personal, more real. But the truth is quieter than that. The pain is real, the feeling is real, but the identity built around it is not. It is something the mind creates to make sense of what is happening. And once you begin to see this, even slightly, something softens. You stop holding the pain so tightly. You stop merging with it completely. You allow it to be there without turning it into who you are. And in that space, something new begins to appear. Not relief, not instantly, but distance. A small gap between you and the pain. And that gap is where everything changes. Because in that gap, you are no longer lost inside it. You are witnessing it. Feeling it, yes, but not becoming it. And the more you stay with that awareness, the more you let the pain move, without resisting it, without feeding it with stories. The more it begins to shift, not because you forced it to go away, but because you stopped giving it an identity to live in. And slowly, very slowly, you begin to realize something deeply important. That no matter how intense the pain becomes, no matter how long it stays, there is something in you that remains untouched. Something that was there before the pain. Something that is still here during the pain. And something that will remain. Even after it fades, that part of you was never broken, was never damaged, was never defined by what you felt. It only seemed hidden because the pain felt so loud, so consuming. But now, as you sit here, noticing, breathing, observing, you begin to sense it again. That quiet presence, that still awareness, that part of you that doesn't need to be fixed, doesn't need to be healed, because it was never hurt. And this is where a deeper kind of peace begins. Not the kind that comes from making pain disappear, but the kind that comes from realizing you were never the pain. You were the one who was always aware of it and always will be. In silence, your real self starts to appear. There is something about silence that most people try to avoid, not because it is empty, but because it reveals too much. When everything is quiet, when there is no distraction, no noise, no constant movement, something begins to surface, something that has always been there, but rarely noticed. In your daily life, there is always something filling the space. Sounds, conversations, thoughts, screens, endless input. And even when the world around you becomes quiet, the mind continues speaking, replaying, imagining, reacting. So true silence is rare, not just outside, but inside. And because of that, you rarely get to experience yourself without interruption, without layers, without the constant noise shaping your attention. But just for a moment, imagine everything slowing down. Not forced, not controlled, just naturally, gently, fading. The thoughts are still there, but they are softer. They don't pull you in the same way. They don't demand your attention. They come and they pass, like distant sounds, and in between those thoughts, there are small gaps, tiny spaces where nothing is happening. No story, no reaction, no identity, just stillness. And in those spaces, something begins to appear. Not as an image, not as a thought, but as a presence. A quiet sense of being that doesn't need words to exist. At first, it feels unfamiliar, almost strange, because you are so used to defining yourself through movement, through thinking, through reacting. But here, there is no need for that. You are not trying to become anything. You are not trying to understand anything. You are simply here, aware, present. And that presence doesn't come from effort, it doesn't come from thinking. It is what remains when thinking becomes quiet. And this is why silence can feel uncomfortable. Because when the noise fades, there is nothing left to hide behind. No distraction to escape into. No constant activity to keep you occupied. Just you. Without the layers, without the roles, without the story. And for a moment, that can feel unsettling. Because you're meeting something that is deeper than anything you've known before. But if you don't run from it, if you stay, even gently, even without trying to hold on to it, something begins to shift. The discomfort softens, the unfamiliar becomes natural, and the silence starts to feel different, not empty, but full, not heavy, but peaceful. Because now, you are not experiencing silence as the absence of noise. You are experiencing it as the presence of yourself. Not the version of you built from thoughts and identities, but the deeper you, the one that doesn't need to speak to be real. And the more you stay in that silence, the more you begin to notice something subtle. That this presence was always there. Even when the mind was loud, even when emotions were intense, even when life felt overwhelming, it was there quietly, in the background, unchanged, but it was covered by constant thinking, by endless reaction, by the habit of always being somewhere else, in the past, in the future, in imagined situations. And now, as the silence opens, those layers begin to thin. Not because you are removing them forcefully, but because you are no longer feeding them with constant attention. You are allowing them to settle. And in that settling, what is real begins to reveal itself, not as something new, but as something that was always present, just unnoticed. And slowly, you begin to realize you don't need noise to feel alive. You don't need constant thought to exist. You don't need to define yourself every moment. There is something in you that is complete. Without all of that, something that simply is. And in that realization, a different kind of peace emerges. Not the kind that depends on things going your way, not the kind that disappears when life becomes difficult, but a steady, quiet peace that remains, even when everything else changes. Because it is not coming from outside. It is not coming from thoughts. It is not coming from identity. It is coming from that silent presence that is always here, waiting, not to be created, but to be noticed. And the more you return to that silence, even for a few moments, the more familiar it becomes, not as a place you visit, but as something you are. And gradually, without effort, without force, you begin to carry that silence with you into your life, into your thoughts, your actions, your moments. Not as something separate, but as a quiet foundation beneath everything. And now, even when the noise returns, even when the mind becomes active again, there's a part of you that remains untouched, a part of you that remembers what it feels like to simply be. And that is when something beautiful happens. You no longer fear silence. You no longer try to escape it. You begin to welcome it, because you realize it is not taking anything away from you. It is revealing what was never missing. And in that silence, you don't find answers. You don't find explanations. You find something deeper, something that doesn't need to be explained, because it is already complete, already whole, already you. And maybe for the first time, you are not trying to become yourself. You are simply allowing yourself to be. You've been protecting an identity that isn't even real. There is something you have been holding on to for a very long time, something you don't always notice, but it shapes the way you think, the way you react, the way you move through life. It is the idea of who you are, not just your name, not just your personality, but a deeper image, a version of yourself that you have slowly built, and even more slowly started protecting. You protect it when someone disagrees with you. You protect it when someone misunderstands you. You protect it when something threatens the way you see yourself. And sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. It happens instantly, like a reflex, a need to defend, to explain, to hold on to something that feels like you. But just pause and look at this carefully. What exactly are you protecting? Is it something solid, something unchanging, something truly real? Or is it an image made of thoughts, memories, and beliefs? Think about it. The way you describe yourself, I am this kind of person. I am not like that. I would never do this. These are not facts carved into reality. They are conclusions formed over time based on experiences, interpretations, and repeated thinking. And each time you repeat these ideas, they become stronger, more fixed, more convincing, until they feel like something you must defend. But if you look deeper, you'll notice something strange. This identity you protect is not always consistent. It changes depending on where you are, who you're with, what you're feeling. Sometimes you see yourself as strong. Other times you feel weak. Sometimes you feel confident. Other times you doubt everything about yourself. And yet, you are protecting all of these versions as if they are one solid truth. But how can something that changes be something that is real in a permanent way? What you are protecting is not a fixed self. It is a shifting image, a collection of ideas held together by belief. And because you've held onto it for so long, it feels important. It feels necessary. It feels like losing it would mean losing yourself. But this is where something begins to soften. Because if the identity can change, if it can be reshaped, redefined, rebuilt, then it was never you to begin with. It was something you were carrying, not something you are. And yet, you've been investing so much energy, protecting it, defending it, trying to keep it stable, trying to make sure it stays intact, even when it causes you pain, even when it limits you, even when it keeps you stuck. Just notice that. How much of your effort goes into maintaining an image, into making sure others see you a certain way, into making sure you see yourself in a certain way, and how exhausting that can be. Because deep down, you are constantly managing something, holding it together, adjusting it, protecting it, and that quiet tension you feel sometimes, that subtle pressure, it comes from carrying something that is not natural, something that needs effort to exist. Because what is real does not need to be protected. It does not need constant reinforcement. It does not need explanation. It simply is. But this identity needs all of that. It needs thoughts to support it. It needs stories to justify it. It needs reactions to defend it. And without all of that, it begins to feel unstable. And that's why you hold on to it. Because it feels like the only thing you have. But just stay here for a moment. What if letting go of that identity doesn't mean losing yourself? What if it means finally stopping the effort of holding something together? Because when you stop protecting it, when you stop defending every idea about who you are, something unexpected happens. You don't disappear. You don't become empty. You don't lose your sense of being. Instead, you feel lighter, less restricted, less defined, as if something tight has started to loosen. You begin to notice that you can still think, still act, still exist, without constantly referring to an identity, without constantly asking, what does this say about me? And in that space, something deeper begins to reveal itself, not as a new identity, but as the absence of one, a quiet presence that doesn't need to be described, that doesn't need to be defended, that doesn't need to be protected, Because it is not something fragile. It is not something built. It is something that has always been there. Before every idea about yourself, before every label, before every version you've ever tried to become. And the more you rest in that, the more you realize you were never meant to carry an identity so tightly. You were never meant to protect something that keeps changing. You were only doing it because you thought that was who you were. But now, something is shifting, not loudly, not suddenly, but quietly, through seeing, through noticing, through understanding that what you've been protecting was never you. It was just a reflection, a temporary image, formed in the mind. And once you see that clearly, even for a moment, the need to protect it begins to fade. Not because you forced it to, but because you no longer believe it completely. And in that letting go, there is space, there is ease, there is a kind of freedom that doesn't come from becoming someone new, but from no longer needing to be someone at all. And in that freedom, you begin to sense something deeper, something that was always here, quietly, waiting, not to be protected, but to be recognized. Once you see through it, you can't become blind again. There is a moment, it doesn't arrive with noise. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel dramatic from the outside. But inside, something shifts quietly, deeply, almost like a subtle crack in something you once believed was solid. For most of your life, you were inside the experience, inside the thoughts, inside the emotions, inside the identity. You didn't question it because there was nothing to compare it to. It simply felt like reality, like this is just how things are. But now, something is different. You are not completely inside it anymore. There is a small distance, a quiet awareness, a sense that what you are experiencing is not the same as what you are. And this shift, even if it feels small, changes everything. Because once you see something clearly, even for a moment, you cannot fully unsee it. You can try to go back. You can try to return to the old way of thinking, the old way of reacting, the old way of believing. But something inside you will know. Something will feel different. Because now, there's a part of you that has seen beyond it, seen beyond the thoughts, seen beyond the emotions, seen beyond the identity you were holding on to. And that seeing doesn't disappear. It may become quiet. It may fade into the background for a while, but it remains like a subtle memory, not of something you learned, but of something you recognized. And this is where things begin to change, not all at once, not in a dramatic transformation, but in small, quiet ways. The next time a thought comes, you may still follow it, but something in you notices. The next time an emotion rises, you may still feel it deeply, but something in you remains slightly separate. The next time you react, you may still fall into old patterns, but there is a moment, a brief pause, where you see what is happening, and that pause, that small awareness, is the beginning of freedom. Because before, there was no gap. Everything was automatic. Everything felt like it was happening to you. Without your awareness, without your choice. But now, there is space, not a lot, but enough. Enough to see, enough to a notice, enough to slowly step out of the pattern. And this is why you cannot go back, because going back would mean not seeing. And once you have seen, even a little, that is no longer possible. You may forget. You may get lost again in thoughts, in emotions, in identity. But even in that, there is a quiet knowing, a subtle awareness that something deeper is present. And this knowing begins to change the way you experience everything. You stop taking every thought as absolute truth. You stop reacting to every emotion as if it defines you. You stop holding on to every identity as if it is fixed. And instead, you begin to move differently, not because you are trying to, but because something inside you has shifted. You begin to watch more, react less, notice more, get lost less. And even when you do get lost, you return more quickly, because now there is something guiding you, not as a voice, not as a thought, but as a quiet awareness that keeps bringing you back. Back to the present, back to the seeing, back to the truth, that you are not what you once believed. And over time, this awareness becomes more stable, more natural, less like something you are doing, and more like something you are. You don't have to remind yourself constantly. You don't have to practice in a forced way. It simply becomes part of how you see, part of how you experience life. And this is where a deeper shift happens. You stop trying to change everything. You stop trying to control every thought, every feeling, every situation, because you realize the problem was never the thoughts, never the emotions, never even the identity. The problem was the complete identification with them, the belief that they were you. And now that that belief is weakening, everything else begins to loosen as well. Life still happens, thoughts still come, emotions still rise, situations still unfold. But you are no longer completely inside them. You are here, watching, experiencing, but not becoming. And in that space, there is a quiet freedom, not the kind that removes difficulty, but the kind that changes your relationship to it. And once you taste that, even slightly, you don't want to go back. Not because the old way was wrong, but because it was limited, it was unconscious, it was confined to a narrow view. And now, you've seen something wider, something deeper, something more real. And even if you can't fully explain it, even if you can't put it into words, you can feel it. That subtle shift, that quiet clarity, that sense that you're not bound to what you once believed. And this is why, once you see through it, you cannot become blind again. Because blindness was never your true state. It was just the absence of seeing. And now, seeing has begun. Not as something loud, not as something dramatic, but as something steady, something real, something that continues, even when everything else changes. And from here, there is no need to force anything, no need to rush, no need to become something else, because what needed to be seen has already been seen. And what remains now is simply allowing that seeing to deepen, to settle, to become clear in its own time, without pressure, without expectation, just quietly, naturally, as you continue to notice, to observe, to be exactly as you are. What you truly are was never lost, only hidden. For so long, it felt like something was missing, like there was a version of you you hadn't reached yet, a place you needed to arrive at, a state where everything would finally make sense, where you would feel complete, clear, at peace. And so you searched, through thoughts, through effort, through trying to change yourself, trying to understand more, become better, fix what felt broken. But quietly, without realizing it, that search was based on one assumption, that something about you was not enough, that something essential was missing. But now, after everything you've begun to see, something inside you is starting to shift, not as a conclusion, but as a quiet recognition that what you were searching for was never actually gone. It only felt that way because it was covered by thoughts that never stopped, covered by emotions that felt overwhelming, covered by identities you slowly built and believed, layer after layer, so gently, so gradually, that you didn't notice what was happening. You didn't notice that what was always simple was becoming complex. What was always still was becoming crowded. What was always present was becoming hidden. Not lost, just hidden. Like the sky behind heavy clouds, the sky doesn't disappear. It doesn't break. It doesn't fade. It simply becomes unseen because something else is covering it. And for a while, it feels like the clouds are all there is, like the sky itself has changed, but it hasn't. It is still there, untouched, unchanged, waiting, not to return, but to be noticed again. And this is what is happening within you. What you truly are was never undamaged, never incomplete, never lost. It only became difficult to notice because of everything that was placed on top of it. The thoughts, the endless movement of the mind, pulling you into past, into future, into imagined versions of reality. The emotions, rising and falling, creating intensity, making everything feel personal. The identity, the version of yourself you built, protected, believed in, all of it, layer upon layer. And as long as those layers felt real, as long as you believed they were you, what was underneath remained hidden. But now, something has changed. Not because you forced anything to change, not because you figured everything out, but because you started seeing. You started noticing. You started observing. And through that seeing, the layers began to loosen. Not all at once. Not completely, but enough. Enough for small gaps to appear. Enough for moments of stillness to come through. Enough for you to sense something deeper. And in those moments, even if they were brief, you felt something different. Not a new identity, not a new version of yourself, but the absence of everything that isn't you. A quiet presence, a simple awareness that doesn't need to be explained because it is already complete. And now, as you sit here, listening, noticing, feeling, there is something subtle happening. You are not trying as much, not trying to understand every thought, not trying to control every feeling, not trying to hold on to every idea about yourself. There is a softening, a gentle release. And in that release, what was hidden begins to reveal itself more clearly, not as something new, but as something familiar, something that feels like you've always known it, but never fully recognized it. And this is where the shift becomes deeper. You stop searching for yourself because you begin to feel that you are already here. You stop trying to become something else because you begin to see that nothing needs to be added. You stop trying to fix everything because you begin to understand that what is real in you was never broken. And from this place, life doesn't suddenly become perfect. Thoughts still come, emotions still rise, situations still unfold, but your relationship to them changes. You are no longer completely inside them. You are here, aware, present, watching, not detached in a cold way, but free in a quiet way, free from believing that every thought defines you, free from feeling that every emotion controls you, free from holding on to an identity that must always be maintained. And in that freedom, there is space to breathe, to feel, to exist, without constantly trying to become something else. And slowly, without effort, that space becomes more natural, more stable, more familiar, until it is no longer something you visit, but something you live from. And this is the quiet truth. What you truly are was never something you needed to find. It was never something far away, never something hidden in the future. It has always been here, in this moment, before the thought, before the feeling, before the identity. Just here, still, aware, present. And now, you are beginning to notice it, not through effort, not through force, but through simple seeing, through quiet awareness, through allowing things to be as they are. And maybe, for the first time, you don't feel like you are searching anymore. You don't feel like you are chasing something distant. You simply feel here, complete, without needing to prove it, whole, without needing to fix anything, at peace, without needing everything to be perfect. And this is not an ending. It is not a final state. It is a beginning, a different way of being, a quieter way, a deeper way, where you are no longer trying to become yourself. You are simply being what you have always been, before everything else was added, before everything else was believed. Just this awareness, this presence, this stillness, and it has been with you the entire time. So now, there is nothing left for you to chase, nothing you need to become, nothing you need to prove. Just sit here for a moment and notice you are still here, not as a name, not as a story, not as a collection of thoughts, but as something quieter, something that has been present through everything, through every change, every emotion, every phase of your life. It never left. It was never lost. It was only waiting beneath the noise. And now, you've started to see it, not clearly all the time, not perfectly, but enough. Enough for something inside you to soften, enough for you to stop holding so tightly, enough for you to realize you don't have to carry all of this anymore. You don't have to fight every thought. You don't have to fix every feeling. You don't have to keep rebuilding who you are. You can simply let things be. Let thoughts come and pass. Let emotions rise and fall. Let the mind do what it does, while you remain as the one who notices, as the one who is aware. And slowly, without effort, you begin to rest there, not as an idea, but as a quiet experience, a simple presence that doesn't need to be explained, because it is already complete. And maybe nothing around you has changed. Life is still the same. The world is still moving. But something inside you is no longer the same. There is space now. There is calm. There is a quiet kind of freedom. That doesn't come from controlling life, but from no longer being controlled by it. So don't rush from here. Don't try to turn this into another goal. Just carry this silence with you, gently, naturally. And whenever the noise returns, whenever the mind pulls you back, just pause and remember, you are not what is happening. You are the one in which it is all happening. And that has been enough all along.